Hey, this is Laura Whitmore, and I'm live from NAMM with the She Rocks podcast, and I'm so stoked today to be sitting down with a great friend of mine, an amazing guitar player, Gretchen Menn.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Gretchen.
Thanks for interviewing me.
How are you? I like your polka dots.
Thank you.
She's got the cool red polka dots on today.
It wasn't until today when we were like walking or driving down Disney Way that I'm like, oh God, do I look exactly like, is this like a Disney thing? Like the Minnie Mouse polka dots?
Kind of.
It was intentional, yeah.
She's fitting in with the terrain.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm really excited to talk to you, and I'm guessing that you're working on some new music. So can you clue us in a little bit about what's coming up for you?
I am. I'm excited. Last year was such a busy year, and I was so sure that it was a conservative estimate to have my album that I'm working on out last year, and then the year kind of flew by. And so now I'm back on a writing schedule, carving out the time as opposed to assuming I'm going to have it. And I'm working on an album for solo guitar pieces. So,
Ooh.
Yeah, kind of a departure from the last album I did, though I am still very interested in exploring electric guitar and combining it with orchestral instruments. But this one is going to be a lot more performable and also allows me to see how much compositional mileage I can get on my home instrument.
Wow, that's really cool. So are you saying that it's not going to be electric, it's going to be acoustic, or are you mixing it up?
It's going to be a mix. It's going to be a little bit of everything, electric, acoustic, and classical.
Wow. I'm so excited to hear that.
Oh, thank you.
So what stage are you at right now for the project?
The concept of it is pretty fleshed out. And for me, that's a big part of it, is just knowing what I want to do with an album and what I want to say with it. And then the actual writing and recording, the more I have that clear idea, the more the rest of it falls right in line. And so right now there are a few pieces that are done, completed, first versions of them have even been released in some way, shape, or form, like with videos. But in terms of the actual album recording, it'll just be a question of going in and doing, an album pristine version of it. And then other pieces have yet to be written, even a single note of it, even if I know maybe kind of how it should sound or some vague ideas of like what I'm trying to convey with it. So it's all over the place.
Well, I'm super excited to hear it. And you always come up with something fresh and with an interesting perspective.
Aww.
So
thank you. I'm excited to be done with it.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens, right? You start a new project and you're like, yes, I have this vision. And then you want to get to the point where you can share it with the world.
Yeah, exactly. But like with anything, I feel like I try to learn from my previous everything I've done previously. And so everything new that I'm doing, I'm trying to challenge myself to be better and learn from. Wow, that's loud.
Yeah, we're pretty good. We're pretty good in the mics, but if you guys hear a little thumping in the background,
exactly. It's my stomach because I haven't eaten.
No, this is the real. Yeah. We're really here in the world of
exactly
chatting it up, but it's all good.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm always trying to sort of challenge myself to write in new ways and to play better and to write better. So.
Yeah, because you value like the evolution of things. So that's cool.
It's a process, not a destination.
Yeah. But it's good because then you don't get bored, your listeners don't get bored, and not that you would do anything boring. There's nothing boring about Gretchen Menn.
Sometimes I tell long stories and then I regret it.
I bet they're not boring though. So we're good there. We're good there. Hey, so I know that you did a tour with Jennifer Batten and Neely Brosh, and I hear that you guys might be going out again, and I want to hear about it because I knew it was happening, but then I didn't get to talk to you like after you guys did some dates together. So
it was really cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jennifer has been a hero of mine since I first started playing. And Neely Brosh and I became friends just through kind of getting clumped into a similar group of women who play guitar. And we actually became very good friends and have done a number of collaborations together. I played a track on her new album, which is really a great new album. And she and I had talked about trying to do some touring together. And we thought, well, do we have enough draw between the two of us to bring enough people in? And we thought, well, what if we had another artist? And we thought, okay, well, top choice would be Jennifer Batten because, Jennifer Batten. And so we wrote her this kind of heartfelt email thinking that we just had to ask, and that we would then...
Yeah, why not, right? Yeah.
So we never even got to our second choice because she was like, sure, let's do it. So we planned some dates and all showed up and all played a set and then played a little bit together. And it was surreal for me. It's like, they're both such fabulous musicians and such just amazing guitar players and the coolest women you'll ever meet. And it was so much fun. So we've got some East Coast dates coming up, as much as our schedules can permit. I don't really think that any of us are like, yeah, let's get in a bus and just travel for 2 months.
Yeah,
like, we all have so many other things we juggle, and I want to keep it a good situation for everybody involved.
But that's so nice that you guys found that synergy with each other. And like, it's so funny that you say that, because the first time that I asked Jen Batten to participate in something that we did was when we did our second Women's Music Summit out in LA. This is like, oh gosh, maybe 6 years ago or so.
Wow.
And I was super nervous to ask her, because I always, same as you, I'm like, she's so amazing. And I'm like, I didn't really know her well. And I was like, I wonder if she's going to say okay. And she was incredible, and also like so hysterical.
Yeah, she's hilarious.
She's like the funniest person ever.
We did a quick little promo video for one of the dates that we had with the Batten Men Brosh thing, and at the end of it, we were like, okay, we're playing the Miners Foundry, blah blah blah, and then we had a little moment at the end, kind of looking at each other like, are we done or whatever, and she just like puts her hand up to her mouth and makes this big old fart noise. So of course I join in, which is just as bizarre to me as it sounds now. Right. And it's like, oh God, as if you weren't enough of my hero.
Right. She's just like totally the real deal.
She's hilarious.
It's so great.
And so unpretentious.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really nice, because like you guys all have your own thing that you do, and so I'm sure like you complemented each other as performers, and I would be totally stoked to see the three of you playing together. That's super cool.
Oh, well, it was really an honor, and I'm excited to do more of them.
Yeah. I mean, East Coast dates. I'm on the East Coast.
You're going to be on my guest list.
So how do people find out about that tour? Is it on your website?
Because the dates are actually, like, right now I'm getting emails from my booking agent. They haven't been officially released yet, mostly just because I'm busy at NAMM.
Yeah.
But I think next week those will be coming out. And it's not going to be a ton. It'll probably be like 3 or 4.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Keep them wanting more.
Well, yeah, it's more that like we were all like, okay, what window of time are we all available?
Yeah, so true. Well, that's very, very cool. And yeah, we'll look out for that for sure. So I was in New York with you, and Zepparella came to town, and I was like so bummed that I couldn't see you, because there was like another Zeppelin event that night. Crazy enough, but I heard that you guys sold the place out, and it was awesome. So share what's up with Zepparella.
Well, we're actually going to be back at the Cutting Room for 2 nights. I think it's April 23rd, 24th, whatever that Friday, Saturday is.
Oh my God, I'm so there.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be 2 nights this time, which is great. Not to have to drive after a show.
You know, I love the Cutting Room, so
I love that place. Yeah. It was really, they were so good to us. It was such a fun show. It was great to see you. So now that you don't have to be 2 places at once, maybe you'd be there.
Trying to clone myself, but
I understand. That's what NAMM's like too.
It's so true. Well, that's awesome. And are you guys doing some other dates on the East Coast as well?
Yeah, we got a whole couple weeks across the country in April, where we're just slamming in as many cities and areas as we can, and whatever it is, like
I like
20 days or something.
Zepparella in the springtime. Yes. Perfect.
Man, it's a lot nicer than like we've done summer tours where it's just like we're just hot for 3 weeks, or winter tours where you feel like you're never gonna thaw out.
Right. Yeah, I know, right? It's probably safer travel in the spring than winter. You know, people try to avoid that if they can.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about how, like, what you do, how you play, your thoughts about playing has sort of evolved lately. That's
a good question. I think when I first started playing, I was just really excited to play the guitar. I mean, like, as a teenager, you don't really have that concrete of an idea about what you want to say or do with music. It's more like, oh, I want to play guitar because that sounds cool. Over time, I think the way that I've evolved is more and more the recognition of how important it is to not compare yourself to other people, and to invest in finding your own voice, and not to have too many preconceived notions about what that needs to be, because what that might be one year might change the next. I mean, we're constantly learning, growing, and evolving, and so our music should as well. And I think the more direct of a connection we can have between who we are and how we play and what we write, the greater the authenticity of the art, and I think the greater potential there is for it to be meaningful to other people. And to me, it is about expression, but it's also about communication.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I'm just trying to think, like, I know I want to ask you about your gear, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, like what your setup is. And do you have any advice to listeners about, maybe how you dial in your tone, or some thoughts on that?
So the gear that I'm currently using is, so my rig's a little different for Zepparella than it is for my original stuff. So I'll start with my Zepparella rig. Okay. So for those, I've got Les Pauls, and they're both Les Paul standards. I have my main one and then my one that's my backup. And those have DiMarzio PAF 59s, which are new and beautiful. The ones in my blue guitar, my number 2 Les Paul, are these gorgeous rose gold, and they just came out. Yeah, nice. I just did a video and stuff with DiMarzio a few months ago. And then my pedal board is an Exotic Effects wah, a TC Electronics Polytune, and then some Providence pedals. So a phase force, which is like a phase shifter, a boost pedal, which right now is a Silky Drive, and then in the effects loop of the amp is a chrono delay. Those are all Providence pedals. And then the amp that I'm using for Zepparella is a 2-Rock Bionics, which for years I had an old mid-70s Marshall, which I love, and I never thought I would use anything else. And then I tried this 2-Rock amp actually for the She-Rocks Awards.
Oh, okay.
And that's how actually you were part of how I developed my relationship with 2-Rock. Come to think of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my Zepparella rig. I also have a Dan Electro that I use in my time of dying, so like one song. And then for my original stuff, my main guitar is a Music Man Silhouette Special with DiMarzio single coil pickups, and then my pedal board's pretty much the same thing. And for that, I use either a 2-Rock Bloomfield Drive amp that I have, or a Engel Special Edition 670 with EL34s. They're both great amps. They both are just different flavors of awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I use Ernie Ball strings, 10 through 52s, and Jazz 3 picks. Dunlop Jazz 3 picks. I think that's it.
See, I think the importance of the pick selection is overlooked sometimes, because I have become very particular about the picks that I use, because it really matters.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And I've always used the Jazz 3 or Jazz 3 type picks. And every now and then somebody will be like, oh, here's a pick. And it'll be like just a regular standard. And I'm like, why don't you just hand me a Frisbee? Like, this feels so, it feels so wrong. I know many people do great things with them, but I feel like I wouldn't even know where to start.
I mean, it's how you connect with your guitar.
Yeah.
So, like,
I know.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. So do you play around with, especially with your original music, do you play around with like your tone or how you're approaching like what your guitar is going to sound like for each song? Or?
Yeah, because I think there's probably that my original music is where I have the most spectrum in terms of like I do things on classical guitar that's just totally clean, and it's actually, I didn't even mention my classical guitar. It's a Kenny Hill Ruck model. I was actually just over at their booth. There was a cool Kenny Hill story actually, which is that I've had this guitar that I love dearly, and it's way more guitar than I am player, but so I cherish this thing. And I was at a Zepparella show in Felton, California, which is like this tiny town near Santa Cruz, and a guy's at the merch table afterwards with this white hair. He's super cool looking, and he mentioned he asked, if I still stuck with my classical guitar chops at all. And I said, oh gosh, yeah, but not as much as I want. I always want more time. And he mentioned that he was a builder, a local builder. And I had this little momentary connection because Felton is such a small town, and I knew where my guitar was built. And I said, "Wait, what's your name?" He said, "Kenny Hill." And I almost lost it. I was like, "Oh my God!" At my merch table, like screaming and trying to get pictures with him. So it was a lovely moment.
That's awesome. It was great because you connected with the builder of this instrument that you like really loved.
I know. I'm like, you're the dad of my instrument. It's so cool. So that's something that I play and that I do with my original music. And then I also have a couple of steel string guitars, a Steven Strom Eros, which is beautiful steel string, and then also a Santa Cruz Guitar Company OM model.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And both of those have DiMarzio Angel pickups in them for playing live or for plugging directly in, which is sometimes more convenient than trying to have everything at home. But in terms of those and effects and everything, at least with this album that I have coming out now, it is because it's going to just be guitar. There's a lot that I'm going to get to dive into in terms of the tones and the effects, because there's nothing else that's going to be, I'm not having to pick a tone that works better with, the bass sound or the drum sound or whatever. It's going to be really exciting. So,
and you can play around. It's your playground.
Exactly. I can do all sorts of delays, and it's not going to get washed out because there's,
it's still you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe we'll get washed out, but you still hear it.
It's all you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what else do you got coming up? Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Let's see. Well, gosh, this year is already shaping up to be so busy, which is a good thing. I'm going back to Germany. Last year, I taught a week-long workshop in Schorndorf, Germany, and then we did a performance.
Wow,
my drummer,
that's cool.
Thomas Perry, and I performed with Stu Ham, who played on my first album, and that was the first time we've actually performed live together, and that was just a kick. It's crazy to look over and be like, gosh, when I first started playing guitar, I could name 2 bass players, and that was Billy Sheehan and Stu Ham. Oh, maybe Flea too, but it's like, whatever. I'm a teenage girl and I'm like, bass players, I'm interested in guitar. What? And to look over and be like, wow, that's Stu Ham. And we're playing one of my songs. What? So
that's way cool.
It's cool. So this year we're going back. Stu's doing something else. So my bass player, Anna Pfeiffer, who I play with in my trio, she's going to come to Germany too. So we've got a performance, and I'll be teaching like crazy for a week.
Is that something that people can buy? Ticket to and come participate.
Yeah, you don't have to sign up for the whole workshop,
right? Which
is it's not a full week. It's like Tuesday through Friday or something like that.
Right.
And then the performance is on Saturday, so you can come just for the performance, or you can come for the performance and the workshop or whatever.
Oh my God, I want to go to Germany and hang with you.
It was so much fun. You should actually. They need songwriting teachers too.
Oh, all right. We'll be talking about this later.
Recommend you.
Wow, that's cool. So, when you were talking about your rig for Zepparella, I was wondering, do you encounter anybody who's like, hey, that's not the traditional Zeppelin rig that you're playing? What's up with that?
Of course. I always tell people that I'm more than happy to play any gear that they would like to give me, that they feel that I should be playing. By all means, buy me that plexi you think I should have.
There you go. That's an excellent answer. I like that. Yeah, send it on over. We'll play it.
Sure. Go ahead. Here's my P.O. box.
Do you feel like, you probably ask this all the time about women who play guitar, but, myself being in that space for so long, I feel an attitude shift towards women in music in general. So I'm wondering, what's your experience out on the road, or are you still seeing some of those crazies out there, or?
I think I don't want to say that I intentionally live under a rock, but at the same time, to be a guitar player is to be constantly acknowledging your own inadequacies. And so my internal critic is plenty loud.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't appreciate helpful advice and pointers from people I respect, but I don't think those are usually the keyboard warriors who are just telling, artists online that they shouldn't exist or whatever. So I do think I insulate myself a little bit for either side of things. I don't need my ego to get out of control in either direction.
Yeah.
And so in terms of if I've noticed a shift, the shift is probably within more how much I'll engage with it.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think that right now the numbers of of women are kind of undeniable. You know, it used to be that it was maybe even 10 years ago, the number of female guitar players specifically. I'm saying guitar players because that's more what I know.
But I think you're right, though. Even like any instrument, female players, or there's more out there in the world, and probably because like we're more visible now because there's more tools to get that visibility.
Yeah, exactly what you're doing because of things like the Women's International Music Network and stuff. But I mean, now people will say, "Oh, like female guitar players," or they'll actually they'll clearly not have done a lot of Googling or whatever. And I always tell them, I'm like, name your genre and name your hair color, and I'll tell you like 5. Yeah. You know, there's so many who are out there who are so good. I mean, and not just like passable, but like great musicians. So I think things have to shift. It's undeniable. It has shifted.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. And, you know, as we continue to create this community, like we can help bring more people in and, you know, reach that critical mass of like, hey, you know, like there's no question, like there's great players and there's great players of all kinds. And if you're telling me you can't find a female player to be on your bill, then just email me. I'll give you 10.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's funny you mentioned this because something like I just did a signing with Courtney Cox from the Iron Maidens, and she's working on her own album as well. And she mentioned something kind of in passing on social media the other day of like that people assume that there's this like, you know, fierce competition with female guitar players. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to say there isn't, but I haven't experienced it. Like most of the ones I know are some of the coolest, hardest working, most open-minded, just self-critical, like just chill, cool people. And I feel like the more that we can engage with that camaraderie, the more that any perceived competition can be to everybody's benefit. So instead of competition, it can be cross inspiration. You know, I can see Neely doing something. I can be like, oh my God, clearly I need to work on that. But it's become a positive thing as opposed to now I got to hate her because she's inspiring me.
That's all crazy. I don't experience that either. I mean, there's certain individuals who may not get along with each other. That's like everybody in the world, has that. Yeah. But I found the community of female musicians to be super supportive and trying to lift each other up and, you know, create opportunities for each other for sure. So,
well, and a lot of that is the example you set though, too. I mean, like everything can be contagious, you know, whether it's negativity or whether it's positive community. And it's like you put that out there and somebody who might have been teetering on the fence is like, wait a minute, this is so much better. It's like, so there's been, I think, a lot of great influence that the events that you've done. And yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, a lot of goodwill.
Gretchen Menn is my fan. I love that.
Of course. Who's not your fan? Come on. Oh gosh, Laura's so good and she's always trying to help other people.
No, kids get her.
What about that? Those are the same people who dislike kitten videos.
Yeah, like, not kittens again.
Oh God, I can't. I don't like tabbies.
No. Well, on that note, well, it's been so great to catch up with you.
It's so
Thanks
good to
for
see
stopping
you,
by, and we're so stoked to hear new music and see you play around. So, how do people find out what's happening with you? Where do they go?
It's easy if you can spell my name right. It's just Gretchen Menn with 2 N's, like a lot of guys, and then another N. .com.
GretchenMenn.com. It's all there.
Yeah, it should be all there.
All right.
I've got to throw a couple things up there, but yeah, all the important stuff's up there, and all my social media handles are just Gretchen Menn. So
okay, she's easy to find. You have no excuse now. You got to go check out Gretchen Menn. Be inspired by Gretchen. All right.
Thanks you, Laura.
So much.
Thanks for everything you do for so many of us.
Okay, take care.
You too.
All right.